60 Cal coffee, we would be warmed up. Thank you, Cal Coffee. This, if you haven't guessed yet, is 1 million cups. How many of you guys are here for the first time this morning? Nice, welcome. Well, I hope you enjoy it. I particularly hope you guys enjoy it. This is our weekly event where two startups from this community come here. They tell you what they're working on, what they're building here, and then you provide them with questions, with feedback, with suggestions, and with connections to your network to help them grow here in Tampa Bay and build some cool stuff. My name is Sean Kennedy. I'm an organizer here, along with Chris Bennett, Danielle Whiteloff, who's just too busy for this. Marianne is in New Orleans, so she knows what's going on. And then officially and unofficially, Carly, hiding there in the corner, who puts everything together, organizes this room, creates the weekly emails. If you're not getting those weekly emails, sign-in sheet is right by the door. Tells you who is presenting, who has presented, how you can help them, how you can get connected to the events we discuss. We do have two wonderful presentations today. I will first invite up Sarah, who many of you will recognize, to tell us about Galleries on the Coast.
There's space over here. I have a tacky. Okay, come on.
Okay, just real quick, I want to ask you, who likes sex and or chocolate? Okay, great. I'm not talking about that today, I just want to know. My name is Sarah Mullins. I developed a company 3 years ago called Galleries on the Go, and I broker art spaces in public places. And you're thinking, why would you do that? Well, first of all, I'm an artist. I have been since I was 7 years old, but I never pursued that. I did the prudent thing and got a business degree and went into sales and marketing for quite a number of years, and then lost my job in the recession. So I had an opportunity to reinvent myself, went back to my artwork, and then discovered an opportunity to develop a business plan that would assist artists in getting their art out to the market. And so as you think about art, I love this little quote: art is not a handicraft, it is the transmission of feeling the artist has experienced. And so that speaks to me because I am an artist, and as you look at art and appreciate art, really good art like good sex or good chocolate makes you feel good. So just about the economy real quickly, as I came into the art market in 2010 and 2011, a lot of artists telling me that art was not selling. And immediately my mind went to people that buy art to decorate their houses with, and I'm thinking, really? All those big box stores aren't selling any art? All that art's just still sitting on the shelves? And so I did a little research quickly, and the big auction houses, Christie's and Sotheby's, actually had record years right after the recession. So I'm thinking, as a business person, as a sales and marketing person, what's the disconnect here? Who's the art market? Who's buying? Who has the money and why? And so I also did a little research on marketing, sales. It's not the economy, it's you. And that's a quote by Danny Johnson of ABC's Secret Millionaire. So in other words, I believe that too, and that's why that spoke to me. If you're not selling, it's one of four things. You need to take the initial risk. You have to develop a very long resume before they'll let you come in, because they're going to take your art on consignment, sell it for you, and then give you a commission afterwards. So they have to have the money up front to do that. Exposure means nothing for an artist because you can't tell your bank that you're going to pay your mortgage with exposure. Where do you go? So statistics are showing that art gallery attendance is down. Brick and mortar galleries are failing. If you've known anybody in the St. Pete area, there's a number of them that have come and gone very quickly. The advent of virtual galleries has taken some of that traffic, but there are still artists who want to create the tactile experience, and some buyers who don't depend on the internet, they really want to look at it before they purchase. There's little time for artists to develop a long bio in order to get to that gateway of the galleries, and so the gate for them is narrowing. So the solution is go where the people are. So I have developed a unique blend of gallery and virtual. We are utilizing a QR code so that people can actually scan that and go straight to the website. And then a couple of future things that we haven't developed that are on the horizon: art-on-demand kiosks that we can place in high-traffic areas. You can just point and click, have it shipped directly to your home. And then the future of the art inventory, which is RFID or memory chip that just pass by. And so museums and galleries now are still doing inventory by hand. Takes him a month, which is crazy. I'm not much of a fan of Thomas Kincaid, but just as an example, he proved in our lifetime that an artist can market himself and make plenty of money before he dies. I did a couple of case studies real quick, and I won't go into too much detail here, but we have Ed Ruscha, who sold a painting first for $480,000, and then 3 years later for almost double that. Beatrice Milhayes, who sold one in 2006 for $190,000, and then double that 4 years later. So art is selling. We've developed in the last 3 years, I was here almost 3 years ago presenting, and in the last 3 years we've developed additional streams of revenue. So Galleries on the Go has more than 10 venues in the Tampa Bay area. We've developed art sales we're selling where many galleries are not. I have developed a brokerage relationship between those venues and the artists, so I become the mouthpiece for them. Then we've developed a partnership with an artist who does design, so we have Design Source, doing design and outside art, construction, so forth, and then print on acoustic tile, so we're taking images on acoustic tile and graphic vinyl. Who is my audience? Building managers, municipalities, decorators, realtors, furniture stores, and new construction. Here is just a smattering of the more than 10 current clients that we have. We just won a contract with Ruth Eckerd Hall and the Moraine Arts Center to represent their art leasing program. So I mentioned that, and then what do I need? I need strategic corporate partners for the art leasing program, and then I'd like to talk to somebody about developing that RFID inventory for us. Any questions?
Sarah, so as I understand it, I'm not sure you explained it in detail, what you do is you take artists' work, place it in, let's say, a corporate boardroom or corporate lobby, banks, whatever, Ruth Eckerd Hall, up for sale, somebody buys it, the artist gets the sale, you get a percentage, am I right about that?
There's no percentage taken, we get a flat rate rent. So in other words, they rent that space for 2 months at a time at a very low fee. So they start anywhere from $15 and up to $300 depending on the premium space.
And that's the artist that rents it?
Artist rents it from me, that space, and then they get to keep whatever they sell. So there's no commission taken, which is fabulous, because a lot of galleries now are taking up to 60% of their sales.
Is it a good connection for you to meet with somebody that might own a gallery, say, in Tampa?
I think having that connection, because I'm assuming that they're also turning away a lot of artists who are pretty darn good. So for me, that's what I need. I need to find those artists who are being turned away from the galleries and help them develop that resume so they can get back in.
So the corporate or the Ruth Eckerd or whatever, you're not charging them, they just get art?
So it was a solution for Ruth Eckerd Hall. During the recession, they lost about half their staff. And so the person who was managing their gallery space now has 2 or 3 jobs that they're trying to facilitate. So I'm a solution to that problem for them. I provide a vendor contract to do that service on their behalf. And then I'm one point of contact for them to hundreds of artists.
Are you charged?
I do not. We get the rent from the artist. And they're willing to pay it. We've already filled them.
Do you just deal in paintings and lithograph painting art, or do you also deal with sculptors and glass boards and folks like that?
Many genre. Thank you for that question. There are many types of art, and we have also included things like hand-embellished giclée framed. They're selling very well. So it gives the buyer a price range that they feel like they can afford, bringing that down to that hand-embellished print.
When I walk into Ruth Eckerd Hall and I see the art on the wall, how do I know it's for sale? Is there a price tag hanging down from it? Or?
There's pricing, labeling, and then there's my information, as well as the administrative staff is available by phone. So they send me an email as soon as they have an inquiry. I actually did a phone sale with my card reader in my car on the way to St. Augustine or someplace.
So I'm just using Roof Record Hall as an example. So you pay them money to put it on their wall, or they just want new art on their wall, and you offer a service to circulate it out every so often, as long as you can display some artist's work up there for sale?
That's correct.
Okay,
So I get the space for free, basically.
that's nice.
I have no overhead in terms of, brick and mortar.
That's great.
Is there a sweet spot price-wise that you're finding the artists are selling the best at?
Yes, but it depends on the market. So for instance, I have art on the 4th floor of the Municipal Hall in Indian Shores. And that community is all condos. So they're not going to buy a 4-foot wide painting because they have a lot of window walls. They need paintings that are about this size, and they're only willing to pay $300 or less. Okay? But then over in Safety Harbor, there are those beautiful waterfront homes. They're huge, and they will buy a 4-foot painting, and they'll pay a lot more. So these are things I can coach the artist on.
So what's the timing of your cycles for each location for the artist?
So we do a 2-month rotation. Is that what you're referring to? So a minimum requirement for them to rent the space is 2 months. And we rotate that out. So they have an opportunity to either stay or rotate to another venue, or just get out if it's, they find it not affordable or not working for them.
Who has the liability for the art?
The artist. And I make that very clear on our agreement.
As a facility, do I have any say, or can I request a certain artist or a certain type of art or a certain medium?
Yes, to all of that.
Okay.
Typically what happens is I'll go in and kind of communicate with them on what they're looking for or what they don't want. After the first 2 sessions like that, they're kind of like, oh, just go ahead. Because they really don't want to fiddle with it.
Yeah.
2 questions. Most artists have insurance on their pieces, and are they the ones that put it on the wall?
They do not have insurance on their pieces, and I'm looking for a partnership for someone who could write a policy that I could add to my website. They could participate in that if they wanted to. I make them very well aware that I'm not able to insure them, but I do take very good care of their pieces, so if I'm picking that up, I treat it like it's my own. I don't like to do that, but a lot of artists work a full-time job elsewhere, so it's difficult for them to get back and forth at the times when we need to hang that artwork, usually during business hours.
So you do the pickup and the installation?
Not always, but most of the time.
Awesome.
The questions show like a little bit of confusion on your presentation. About a year and a half ago, we presented, it was like a very clear, concise, businesses have spare wall space, artists need a place to blend it. We create the wall for the artists, like we broker that. Here's our plan, and my plan is to go after more and more and more venues and marry them together. This time, that's some of the questions I think like from Matt and others, from folks who might have been here on your first presentation. So is that still your main focus on what you're trying to do? If so, it might not be totally clear. And if it's not, if something changed in the past year where you tried that and you found this worked, this didn't, as a follow-up, I'd be interested to know like what experience you went through and where you are now versus when you presented a year ago.
Yeah, thank you. Great question. So it has changed somewhat. The business model is still the same, except what I'm looking for today is those corporate offices to go into. When I was here 2.5 years ago, I didn't have enough artists to put art on the wall. So I was actively promoting that to the artists and trying to help them understand the concept. It was very confusing to the artists because they were used to the old model. And so I ended up offering a lot of free space for artists so they could understand what it was all about and kind of get used to it. Today, the artists are coming to me, they found me, they understand it, and they want in. So they're calling me. So now I'm having to shift my focus to finding those corporate offices that want that art and have the space available and want to contract for that.
So is there a minimum amount of traffic in a building or in a space that you need or you tell your artists about? Just thinking whether in an office building inside a tent, and that would work, or does it need to be a common area?
We're experimenting with some of both as far as inside an office as opposed to hallways and so forth, and I'm finding that sometimes they both work depending on If they have inside the office, but they have a lot of meetings that come through their conference rooms. So we're going to experiment with that with Congressman Dave Jolly's offices, because they have a lot of people come through there. But he's not necessarily in a high-traffic area. Did that answer your question? I think somebody's waiting up here.
How many pieces, or what's the size of the inventory that you need the RFID system for?
Well, the artist needs to have at least 3 or 4 to start with, and then an inventory of about 15 to 20 to accommodate the rotation. Because what happens during the art season is that now they're also showing in outdoor shows, and they've got things placed elsewhere, and then they come up short and want to pull it off my wall to go do a show.
But are you going to coordinate the deployment of the RFID system, or who's responsible for the deployment and implementation?
My staff.
Your staff?
Yeah.
I like the call.
You just mentioned seasons. What kind of seasons do you have?
So typically around here, it's too hot to show in the summers. They do a lot of outdoor shows around here. In the summer, it's too hot. So I'm looking at a means to help artists see that we're all in air-conditioned places, so it's to their advantage to show with me all year. They don't have to set up their tent. So October through May is about the art season. I don't know who's next.
Is this like a local network that you're building for yourself, or do you see this as a platform that you could eventually build to bring outside of the Bay Area? And is it something that people in Missouri or Indiana can adopt your system and structure and then take care of artists and making corporate space in other places?
Great question. I'm under mentorship right now with the SCORE mentorship program through SBA, and they strongly believe that I have franchise capability to scale up. So this year we're bearing down and working on the processes, getting that documented, making sure they really work the way we think, and then being able to train somebody else to do what we do. So, yes, scalable.
Do you feel a franchise model would be better than an online app like an Airbnb for art gallery?
I don't know, that's great, be worth looking into. Yeah, there's something, yeah.
How do you find your artists and how do they find you?
In the beginning, I was relying on groups that I belong to, but they were too small. So I had to start identifying groups that are larger, like the artist organizations, and then go directly to their president to make those presentations. Not trying to take anything away from what they do, but just augment that. So, yeah.
What's your pricing model with the artists? You know, we talked about high traffic areas. You know, Ruth Eckerd Hall is you pay a premium to get in Ruth Eckerd Hall, and so much to get in a gallery, or
yes,
what is it?
Premium to get into Ruth Eckerd Hall, and there's a jury process. Because Ruth Eckerd Hall said we've been disappointed with the art we've had in the past. We'd like to raise the bar of the quality that goes in there. And so, I've taken that charge and gone back to the groups and said, hey, we got to do a little bit better in identifying those artists. So we're looking at taking an artist group in one area with an artist group in another, maybe 2 jurors from each. They're objective, more objective than just a single entity, to come in and juror those ahead of time, bring those artists in.
So it doesn't sound necessarily like a pricing model. Somebody's judging it. Somebody may say, hey, here's $100,000 I want to get up and Ruth Eckerd Hall, but you can say, no, we got to judge it.
No, that one is probably the exception to the rule, just because of what they've asked us to do. We may be able to eliminate the jury process after a while, just based on what we receive in terms of submissions. People kind of understand they have to do a little bit better, to get there. And the pricing model will probably eventually weed those out anyway, because the people that could afford to do that are probably already producing better art. But that's not true of every case. So I believe that we have a pricing model that fits a lot of people, from $15 all the way up to $300 per month.
So a comment and then a question. So this comment, just everybody else in the room pay attention to this too, if you're ever going to present here. What you did an excellent job with is you actually practiced your presentation and you ended on time. Okay? 95% of people who get up here, they are people in the back are like circle it up, finish it, cut it off, and they keep running. That's highly, in my opinion, highly unprofessional, and it's actually rude to your audience. So you did a great job of saying, I'm going to end on time. Nobody had to signal you. You were done. You practiced it. Great job.
We didn't make it signal.
Well, she was signaling, but I asked her to.
But you were at the end. You were there. You were ready. Now, the question is this. Do you see pushback or any difficulties or barriers to entry for you to get in front of corporate officers and major hotels and different places where you want to put this art? Do they say, we don't want you coming in and changing art in and out? We don't really know you. What's your liability coverage? What if you're nailing stuff on our wall? We don't like it. We don't want tags hanging on the pictures on our wall. What kind of pushback do you get, or how open is that market?
Well, so you threw several things out there, several scenarios, and we have tried to address many of those. So, for instance, holes in the wall. So what we do is hang a gallery rail hanging system. So we're not hanging individual pieces, but one rail at the top, and then it has a flexible cabling system that can be moved around. So we solved that. Liability, I do have liability insurance. The company that issues that said it's a small market, we're not too worried about that. It's $24 a month, and it's to cover if your art falls and hurts somebody, which I've had happen. And so that's pretty simple. I don't remember the other things. You kind of threw 3 or 4 out there, but
Yeah,
there's been a little bit, but we've tried to address that, and they've been pretty simple. To most of the time, as a result of the recovery of the recession, people are looking for art, they don't have a budget for it, and so there's a perfect solution between, you know, not having to purchase it, but having it and not having to manage it. So that's what I do. Does that answer most of that?
So are you looking for partnerships?
Thank you. So this is Lori Stem. She's with Artistas, and I met her here actually at their presentation. And so we found that their support of young adults who have autism and are looking to gain life skills through their coffee cafes that they set up. And they also have artists. And so it was a natural fit for us to get together and talk about how we could take art for autism into Galleries on the Go as a partnership for the community.
Speaking of that, do you have a partnership with the Warehouse Arts District?
I do not. Do you know someone?
I'm on board.
I'm looking you up.
Do you have a marketing campaign already in place for all of the businesses that are currently moving here to the Tampa Bay area? So because I would just assume, right, that every new business that moves here, there's so much expense. So to have somebody that can actually broker the deal for the artwork that comes in would be a fabulous resource for them. So
I'm glad you mentioned that actually, because Sean had asked me, he had posed the question, how are you utilizing technology to get in front of those corporations? And I really don't have an answer for that. I need a little feedback. You know, what would be the best way to get that in front of those corporations? Young people. Young people.
Hi, thank you. Some artists are poets. Do you hang literature instead of, is it just imagery and visual, or do you hang poets, some poets framework their writing? Do you hang stuff like that also?
I think that's a great idea. I have not done that. Look me up. Are you a poet?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
I have some framework in some small galleries, but thought I'd bring it up. You know, some people like famous quotes by,
Sure.
you know, Dante or, you know,
It would help you,
Aristotle.
yeah, it would help you and the other artists because people will pause long enough to read it because they love, you know, handwritten things. You know, people will look at that sooner than they will my own typed marketing. So that would be great. Anybody else?
Sarah, what about private homes? Have you considered short-term rental programs with private homes? I think that large, wealthy individuals who might be interested in that.
I've considered it. It seems labor intensive to me to do individual homes. So it would have to be something, you know, well worth dedicating a staff member to that.
Are you still doing events and actually having events around your presentations at the community?
Some. We ran into pushback, there's a word for you, on those events. Sometimes we didn't get the kind of support we were looking for from the administration or the office staff. And so I did scale that back to a point where we could strategize better on how to make use of that. So in Safety Harbor, we're in a very small financial planning office, but it works because he's located right on Main Street in Safety Harbor, where they have their third Friday music night, which is a lot like St. Pete's second Saturday art walk. And so we're able to open up the doors and drive traffic in and that works very well, and it's very inexpensive to produce. We'll have one upcoming in Indian Shores on the Municipal Hall in February. But again, I've had trouble with the administrative staff, gaining their support of that. So they have since I started, they've developed an arts committee, and my next step is to get with their director of their arts committee and see if they'll provide support for that. Are we done?
Well, not until I ask the final question.
Oh.
What can the community do for you?
Well, again, I'd like to have some feedback on how to utilize technology to get in front of those, those corporate offices that really need my services, because I need a much broader approach than just, the old school cold calling and networking. It's too slow. So I need to speed that up, find a way to speed that up with technology. And then, if you know somebody that's got a building, I'll go talk to them. Just need more locations.
Where our startups have gone over that amount of time. And with that, we are always looking for applications. So if you have a startup or know somebody with one, it's anywhere up to 4 years of business, and it can be all the way from concept stage. If you want to vet a concept, this is a great place to do it. If you notice, it is a friendly crowd. It's not a Shark Tank.
Except for Chris.
Yeah. And we limit him to one question. So, with that, we have a couple of upcoming events that are on the board over here. These also go out in our Friday email with links to them. So if you aren't getting our emails, you're welcome to sign up in the back. There's only 2 that go out a week. We don't bombard you. We don't sell your email address. It's very simple. Tuesday, this is who's presenting. Friday, this is who's presented in the upcoming event. So, January 26th, Code Starters is at Tech Garage. They have information on their website. It's a really interesting program about entrepreneurs and growth with your startup. Pitch 6 is January 26th. It's brought to us by Bright House, and it is a wonderful competition with very interesting presentations. It's neat to watch that kind of pitch presentation happen locally. January 28th, the St. Pete Chamber's annual meeting. Happy Theater members get 2 free tickets. You need to register at the chamber, and non-members.
It's like 40 bucks.
Great, $40 for a great meal and great company. Of course, you can always get Sean's company here on Wednesday. For free. For free. And with free cup of coffee. February 1st is your deadline to apply for the annual Paid Museum Prize for Innovation. I'm not even sure how long they've been doing that for several years. It's a great program. You put your application in about innovation. It's a statewide team that reviews it and narrows it down to a few that then competes for the final prize.
Which is 50 grand.
Right, 50 grand. February 6th to March 12th is the Ice House Entrepreneurship Program on Saturdays. It takes place right in.
It takes place in Midtown.
They run it in Midtown. And February 8th through the 12th is Startup Week Tampa Bay. There are events throughout Tampa Bay that happen that week, and that is sponsored nationally, and we are one of the few communities that get to have a full startup week. So with that, I am going to turn it over to the gentleman from LiftSync. So please come on up.
Good morning, everybody. We are LiftSync. We are a group of University of Tampa students, and recently we won Startup Week in Tampa. And from there, we moved on and won the Global Startup Day. First place won the World Championship tracks. So we are a fitness wearable brand that focuses on transcending the barriers of So the first problem we want to tackle is university athletics. We want to focus on this huge market with 128 Division I football teams. 85 scholarships are offered each year per team, which leaves over 100 players on each team. Now, that being said, the strength and conditioning coaches, athletic trainers have to focus on a lot of things. They need the competitive advantage over other teams to make sure they have a winning season. They want the competitive advantage in recruiting class. They have to make personalized workouts and feedback for every single player on every team throughout the school. They have to make sure players get in the gym, they're putting in the work, putting the time in to become better, and also make sure there's motivation. Along with this, they have to make sure nobody's getting hurt as improper form. And for 5 or 6 coaches, it's impossible to see every rep that every player is doing. This is exactly where we come in. We are a wearable brand that uses 2 wearables, one on each wrist, and we seamlessly track reps, sets, the weight. The 2 bands let us do injury prevention. So if you are benching and your left arm dips more than your right, it shows up on the app that there's a possible injury that could occur here and how to fix it. This is what the app looks like. This is just our MVP wireframe. There's a trainer side and an athlete side. Trainer logs in, they select their school, and they can start creating their workouts instantly. You can see there's all the different exercises they can choose from, and they create their templates that they push to their athletes. Here you can see there's every exercise, and because every athlete is different, one quarterback might bench 200, the other benches 185, you have to be able to select a different type of equipment, set number, rep number, weights, all of that. Then at the bottom you can see there's the athlete list, so they can pull up at any time every single athlete that's on their team, see their past week's workouts, see their stats, their velocity on their lifts, power on their lifts, where injuries are most likely to occur, which I was talking about, and their food log. A lot of these athletes, it's their first time being on their own, independent, so these coaches have to be able to make sure they're accountable for what's going in their system. On the athlete side, they log in, select their school again, and their workouts are all right there. They leave their phone in the locker room, they leave their phone in their dorm. When they get back, their workouts are already logged for them through the rep counters of the accelerometers and the gyroscopes. And the stats are all tracked. They can see what they've lifted, their improvements, where they're going to get hurt, and of course they log their food for their coach. This is all done through different NFC tech. The gyroscopes and the bands can be taught, so when I do a bicep curl, it automatically knows it's a bicep curl as opposed to a shoulder press. Quick demonstration is the athlete would walk into the gym, put on their band, and as they lift the weight, automatically knows which weight you've picked up. And then as they start curling, it automatically starts tracking how many reps they're doing. So as you can see here, he's done 6 reps. It goes to the trainer's app, and he knows that he's only done 6 as opposed to the 10 he was supposed to do. He needs to get in the gym. This leads to cool things like gamification. You can have in-gym leaderboards. The teams can compete against each other. The different quarterbacks know who's the strongest quarterback, and it helps with kind of player position. If this person, if one quarterback surpasses the other, they might have a better shot at being first string. As you can see here, Barry Bonds has benched 1,000 pounds over the past week, and we're kind of suspecting he's doing something illegal, but we're not sure. While the university market is our first target, we'd love to expand to commercial gyms and places like personal or physical therapy clinics. Their original idea came with commercial gyms. They have abysmal retention rates of 40% around the nation, where gyms like Orange Theory Fitness, who track all of their clients' progress, have a 67% retention rate. So we were hoping, you can give this advantage to all the gyms around. And then personal trainers can track their clients just like the strength and conditioning coaches, and physical therapists can use the injury prevention methods that we spoke about. We're in the middle of our prototype creation. It should be done in a month. We're in talks with investors. Our patent is being processed, competing in more things like 1776 coming up, and we are recording. This is our website. website, and thank you for listening to us, and let me know if you have any feedback. We're very early, so.
So where did you develop the technology, or are you pulling the technology from somewhere else? And how tested has it been, right? So if you was wearing one wristband, can I take that wristband on and do some curls, then do a shoulder press, and it's going to delineate that curl versus bench press and shoulder press?
No, we're in the very early stages. We actually have an engineer on board with us who's in the middle of making the prototype right now. So very early stages. We got the technology from other places. You can pull in really cheap parts to create this wristband, and they can connect to the weights very cheaply.
What you said is very possible, though. Yeah, algorithms for knowing the difference between the shoulder press and the bicep curls are very doable.
And so each person, each user is going to have one or two wristbands. I mean, what about legs?
That's another problem we have to tackle, but there's an exercise science lab on University of Tampa's campus, so that's where we're going to go and teach the gyroscopes, how to tell the difference. And of course, each person is going to take a little bit of time to learn, just like your phone's GPS, after enough time of going to work, can tell you how to get to work. It's going to learn everybody's movements, because my bicep curl is going to feel a little bit different than yours, so we're going to get in the lab and work on that. Whereas with certain leg workouts like squats, you can still read it through the wrists, not just the legs.
Gotcha.
Hi, have you pitched this idea to any of the wellness programs that are currently in Tampa Bay, like ARIA Health and Wellness Institute around the corner? They do physical therapy, and they have chiropractic, and they have other modalities there where they can easily translate.
Yeah, we haven't talked to any local clinics, but I know one pretty well that owns 4 or 5 clinics in Massachusetts. Actually, she's a big-time physical therapist there. And that's actually how we got into the physical therapist field, was when she heard about the injury prevention. She loved that, and we were saying that even ties into like insurance claims, because you can track that the rehab's actually being done. That kind of thing.
She actually gave us a letter of intent for our product.
Is this a personal app that one can download for himself in the gym? And have the NFL made y'all any offers yet?
So we're going business to business, so we're trying to sell to like the full team, and after that, the full gym. But it will have the app component with it, like you saw, but it will be more included in the package. When you get the package, you have how many trainer apps you need, how many athletes you have, you get all of the app packages with it.
And if say we were going to an LA Fitness or something like that, maybe it would be included in the monthly membership plan. Like you said, pay an extra $5 a month more to have the LiftSync technology and have access to the app in the gym. Somebody here was first. Go ahead.
Is there a website back in the singing to your app? Because I can imagine a trainer or a gym, the weight room trainer would want to go in and have a better system for faster manipulation of the program.
Yeah, not doing it on the
goals, not just seeing on their phone
Right.
for 100 athletes, because I'm working on something
Yeah,
similar.
we're going to have the web app and the mobile app, just so one of the big things that brought that on was with personal trainers, they're always on the go. They might not be around the computer, but exactly, if a strength and conditioning coach wants to sit at his computer and do it, we're going to have both apps accessible for that.
So you said that it'll let you know injury prevention. What exactly happens? Does an alarm go off?
We're hoping our vision for it was kind of when something's messing up, it can kind of show you what's at risk, what you're doing wrong, and then a list of either exercises that can help prevent that and kind of counteract the injury that you've created, and just give advice on how to fix that.
How unique is this software, and how much protection do you think your patent's going to give you from somebody else coming in and doing something similar?
So as far as that goes, our intellectual property is really between the connection with the band to the weights directly. It's not really with the application. Obviously, getting a patent application or a patent for an application is very difficult. But we can patent the connection between the wristband and the weights.
I think this is a great idea. idea, have you thought about working with somebody like a Fitbit? Because they may have some of those technology resources, and I think you have a much larger market with a Fitbit than
We've thought about it, of course we've thought about it. I mean, they already have the wristbands, and it's a huge market they already own, really. But, you know, we're different than Fitbit because we're not going consumer to the consumer, we're going business to business. But we're hoping as we grow, we can eventually hope to license it out, the software, to those products.
Two things, just returned from CES. The biggest market for wearables, the mature market, the other one. Right, and so I could see seniors using this in exercise, just like the young lady was saying for there. Crunch Gym, have you guys spoken to Crunch Gym?
We spoke to the YMCA. There's a gym over in Tampa called
Jackie Peacock is the person you need to talk to. She controls 35 of the gyms. She handles marketing and technology. Her name is Jackie Peacock. See me afterward, I'll give you her.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you.
You and ask the question.
Okay. When you've gone to, if you have been able to go to the strength coaches, have you found any pushback of, well, we love it, we think it's great, but we're going to have to guide you to the NCAA, because that's a license, that becomes an issue where they make those decisions overall for most of the universities that they govern. Have you found any issues there?
We actually have not ran into that yet. I didn't even think about that actually.
One gentleman there mentioned the wristbands being connected to the weights. Are you saying that all the weight equipment has to be modified in addition to the wristbands and other
So we started with pretty much creating our own equipment and thought that was going to be way too expensive. So you can actually get, like if we use NFC, just little NFC stickers that can stick right on the inside of the weight, keeps cost way down, and you can still connect to them.
It would be extremely simple to connect to
And there is the possibility of later on when we're going to the actual workout machines to license it to say Precor or a major manufacturer, so they can manufacture those machines with the already.
So your first slide was about university strength teams, football teams. I was a Division I athlete, but I haven't heard anything about, I've heard everyone asking, have you gone to this gym or that gym, but no one said USF, you know, biggest football team in town. Unfortunately, Tampa doesn't have a football team.
Right.
But I assume you guys are talking with USF?
Yeah, well,
do you
right
have
now
an
we're
advisory board or some kind of council?
after the exercise science lab, once we work it all out, our first goal is to get with the UT baseball team to test it out right there on campus. That's our biggest team right now. So, you know, they have 3 cycles that go in and out of the gym each and every day, and we figured that would be a good testing ground for it.
We are in line to actually talk with Ohio State strength and conditioning coach very soon.
And you have an incredible amount of football teams in the state.
Right.
Within a 2-hour drive. I'm working on an app for track and field, so I'm also talking to, you know, UF, Miami, USF, everybody, so maybe we can share some ideas.
Sure, we love
So systems are kind of related, actually. Complementary, actually.
We love it.
How? Okay, got it. All right, we'll just take, I'll come back.
Yeah, you guys are obviously very early in the whole startup stage. You guys have been around the startup block with the uploadable stuff. Are you guys all, I got questions. One, how did it start, right? What was the idea of formation? Are you guys all founders? What's the team? You didn't really introduce anybody. And how are you guys funding this? So you got a long ways to go before you actually have a viable product and you can approach all these people that everybody's recommending to you, but until you get there, you know, how are you funding this and what stage are you guys in the corporate?
So the 3 of us are juniors. I'm Matt, this is Mariner, this is Pat, this is Derek, he's a senior at UT. And 3 juniors, we were sitting outside and came up with the idea and picked up Derek at startup weekend. So University of Tampa is actually being a huge help. They just gave us our own, they built their own incubation system and they're running the Spartan Accelerator. And we were given an office in that this semester and they help guide you through all of it. We have a couple investors who have come by and we also are hoping to crowdfund before anything. That's what we're working on right now. And then, did I miss something.
So have you started a company around this yet? I mean, where you find IP and stuff like that?
Right, we are trademark copyright, but we are incorporating, hopefully within the next week, we're meeting with our IP lawyer on Friday.
Matt's father is also a big time lawyer in Florida, so it knows that.
It has helped a whole lot.
What is the cost of entry? So what is the investment up from the university? They have to buy a number of things, they have to buy one for each student, or exactly, do they have to apply these little stickers that go on? I mean, what is the
Yeah, it's
overall?
going to be kind of the package deal of the stickers that go on the weights and 2 bands per athlete. So most schools will need about 200 bands with, however many dumbbells they have with the stickers on there, as well as the software that comes along with it. And Pat knows a little more on the pricing.
The stickers are pocket change. I mean, to put on the dumbbells, those are very cheap. The wristband itself is also very cheap. Right now, we created one. It's going to be created for around $100, but that's a lot of R&D costs. Our engineer, who is also a part of our team that goes into the question, it has a master's degree from MIT, and he says it's feasible to get it down to under $20. So it really would not be very expensive relatively to put this into a university program that spends millions of dollars every year and stuff like this.
So like around $5,000 or something like that would be.
Yeah, I'm thinking 10,000.
If this whole system works, if you get the bands manufacturers, stickers in the gyms, the app, there's like a lot of components and a lot of stuff going on there. Meanwhile, you've got this patent application for communication between a wearable and an NFC, like sticker, tracker, dumbbell. Just challenging you, if this big picture works, that's awesome, like that's the great goal, but is there a way to define like a smaller milestone of take like an API for an existing wearable with one sticker, with one piece of equipment, like dumbbells or a bench press, or just something to really narrow down and simplify, be able to demonstrate like that workable piece. I worry when I see something like so grand, because like if that all works out, that's great, but like, especially if you have the IP and you've got the pieces together, like is there that smaller step or milestone that you could do without having this huge platform to get there?
Yeah, that's a good concern. We're actually, right now, we're working on that smaller milestone. We're just working right now to get it on dumbbells to the wrist. And so that's the smaller milestone that we're really working on right now, and we're actually doing costs.
And is that something, just to follow up, is that something where if you could get an NFC sticker that connects to an existing commercial or consumer band that might have, I don't know, some people have a lot of watches, right? People have apps on the watch, right? Is that something that you could then use to test market the interest or the effectiveness or whatever of that piece? And if you did, then it would probably be much, much easier to get the partners, the investors, all that other stuff to say, like, hey, there's a lot of hype and improving our technology and our team and this piece. Getting from there to this grand plan, I think, just might be a strategy to make it look easier.
Right. I don't think we've really thought about that idea necessarily about demonstrating the product through other products, or the idea of other products. I don't think we really thought about that too much, but it's a good idea.
Human API can put you on, they integrate you with all the different wearable tech. So that would be a good idea to get into different bands and kind of test the market out maybe a specific gym.
So that works and this other stuff becomes
Right, exactly. The one good thing about using our own product is we have the data, then we will have the data and we can work with that. That is a smaller step than we should work.
So dovetailing on that, first of all, great job, guys, truly. Well presented, great idea. I think you guys have something here that's truly valuable.
Thank you
I
very
appreciate
much.
that. I'm not here all the time, everybody knows, and I see a lot of the stuff we all do. Okay? Now, let me say this. I'm the finance guy. I always ask the finance questions, okay? Selling something one time, okay. Leasing or renting something, recurring revenue. If you sell it once, you can lease it forever.
No, that's where we have.
So, let me just finish what I'm going to say, and then give me what you got. Selling the equipment, the actual wristbands and stickers, great. You gotta have something that gives you a good level of capital every time school buys it, right? Once they buy it, they might have to replace a wristband here or there, but if you don't have a recurring revenue stream behind it, it's gonna be hard to keep this floating. Eventually, every school's gonna buy this, and you say, well, 5 years in, we've sold every school in America, half the schools in Europe, we're running out of things to sell.
Right.
So the platform behind this that measures all the data, you get all the analytics, the app piece, have a monthly fee for athletes on that, and sell the wristbands as a one-time deal. Now you've got something that people will put a lot of money into, because recurring revenue is one of the major things that investors look for. How can I make this repeatable over time, put it on autopilot, and let the cash roll in?
Right.
So, give me your thoughts on that.
I forgot to mention that actually that's the main thing I left out was the analytical side. That's exactly what our plan was, monthly cost, selling the analytics, the data. We think that will be huge in universities and even bigger in commercialized gyms.
And then you can have different packages with how much data you might want. Somebody who's at an LA Fitness might not want to pay as much for the analytics as the D1 football program, so we're going to have different packages based on how much they need.
I have a question about the data flow and the analysis. So the wristband is collecting information, and then that information is residing in a memory there, or it is flowing to a phone, and then that is tied to servers and a database?
Yeah, so it's going to the app itself, that's where the logs will be in. We haven't decided how far back to save the data, whether it's 1 week, 3 weeks, something like that, but it will be going from the weight, the band, and the band to your database in your phone.
Okay, so you're carrying the phone with you all the time?
Now, you don't have to carry it with you, so when, like, I personally have a Fitbit right now, and if I go do 10,000 steps and I forgot my phone, when I get back to my phone, I sync it and it logs it all right into the phone.
And I think that's a big piece as well, kind of touching on the more elderly population. I know my grandfather, he has a Fitbit, but he doesn't have a cell phone that can connect to it. So he actually connects to the web application, and it can sync at any time, and it just can store the data on it.
And there's also the possibility, since we will be implementing this gym-wide, that it could be tied into the gym's Bluetooth or Wi-Fi network, so it can go straight from the wristband into the network onto the cloud, and then you can access it anywhere, and you don't have to sync it up manually.
Who's handling risk analysis? If I wear this thing and I start working out at a university, right, and I get injured, and somebody gets to see the train that I was lifting in front of me, who's responsible?
Well, so like in the normal case, if a player gets hurt, that would still be, I don't know if that would be, I assume.
Yeah, we definitely need to talk to your father.
Right.
I'm sure if we're giving this to the trainers, I'm sure we talk with them, and there's a way we can work out and say, look, this is going to predict a lot of things, but the athletes are still.
But if you predicted it and then you didn't, and let's say I'm a parent, I know my son, my child is lifting with this, he was lifting, he got hurt, the trainer didn't see the stat, right? Can I then go after you? Or do I go after the manufacturer, or do I go after the university or insurance? You want to talk business about this?
Yeah.
No, but I'm just saying.
I don't know if this is an issue with athletes, but because it counts the reps for you on the program, is there any kind of alert or an alarm that when you get up to what you're supposed to do, that it notifies you? Because one of the biggest problems I have is I get really bored counting. And does it actually let me know that, or let them know after 10 reps, a little vibration, a beep or something that?
We actually, I don't think we've thought about that yet, but that's a good idea.
Two-way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and speaking of kind of notifications like that, is there a display on the device?
That's something that we're playing back and forth with, honestly.
Because you have the same kind of thought there, telling the athlete when they, or the person when they get up to the weight, that the trainer or strength coach has the goal or the target weight and reps for each lift. That how's the athlete going to know or memorize the entire workout? So you think if you want to step them along, in which that kind of puts you back to a display, or then using an existing smartwatch like a Pebble or
Yeah, we've had
Samsung.
since there's two bands, really thinking maybe one main band will have, it's a possibility for the small LED screen like the Fitbit has, that could just, save the workout that you're doing right then. As well as we were saying, maybe like a 2-light system, green and red, so when you have the connection, it lights up green. When you let go, it goes red, so you know you're done with the set, that kind of thing.
And then someone mentioned that Fitbit, but have you looked into installing this as an app that would be installed on a Apple Watch or an Android or an Apple phone, which also has accelerometers and probably similar sensors built in that people are already buying?
Yeah, we've thought about it. The one problem is the kind of workout tracking, so it knows the workouts it has to be taught, and those haven't, been taught the workouts yet.
But your app would have the accelerometer code
Right,
presumably. So I think that would be the natural next evolution way. Their band would eventually go away as more adoption starts occurring of watching themselves by the students and
Yeah.
Right. I definitely think that's interesting because the watch actually has the NFC technology where some like the Fitbits, a lot of those don't actually have the NFC technology that we're looking to use, so that's definitely an awesome idea.
Maybe a final question here. So what can we as a community do to help this? Take away.
Thanks. So, like we said, we're very early on, and we have a billion ideas running through our head. It's just kind of a jumbled mess right now. So we just got the office, and we're trying to work through everything at once. So more just kind of guidance, and we have more of a linear path to follow, and we know what our next steps are, concretely, because we don't know whether it's more important to file for the patent or incorporate or do one of the million things that we have running through our head. So really it's just guidance, so we know the correct steps.
Connections.
Yeah, the connections as well.
And this is our first venture for all of us, so any just entrepreneurship experiences would be awesome as well.
All right. Once again, two great presenters. I want to thank the audience for reaching out to their network, as we've been asking, to let your friends, family, people know that 1 Million Cups is here every week, that we're presenting great things. Keep sharing and spreading that word. If you could go online today and just do one Facebook post or tweet that says, hey, I was at 1 Million Cups St. Pete, hashtag is 1MCSTP. Then we saw these great presenters that will help spread the word about this great thing that we've got going on. All right. If you would like to present, we look for companies that are less than 4 years in business, under $1 million in revenue, and doing something innovative and scalable, which you can see from our presenters today. Go online, Google 1 Million Cups St. Pete, it'll take you to our website, put in your information. That doesn't mean we're going to put you up here next week. It just means we'll start talking to you about your idea and see what might be a good point this year to fit you in. If you're not getting our newsletters that tell you who's presenting, a recap and footage of our videos that are going on every week, thank you. There is a mailing list sign up right there by the door, or should be. Write your name legibly, and we hope to see you here next week.
Thank you, Vanna.
There's a list. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.